What's up, folks? It's your bro, Richie Rich here. Today in this video, I'm back with another car explanation video for you all. Today in this video, I got a very special video for you all. Today I'll be talking to you about the next muscle car on the list, which this one is the classics. They're pretty cool from, like, let's say, from the 60s. Mainly from the mid to late 60s and to the early 70s. So, a lot of wondering what car I'm talking about? Well, today in this video, I'll be talking to you about the mighty, you guys are gonna like this one, the Pontiac GTO. Now, this is my first time doing the GTO, considering it's like one of the best cars in the world. Again, classics, pretty cool, 60s, 70s wise, perfect. 2000s? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, kinda. I mean, they're okay in the Need for Speed gaming franchise, but the rest of it, in reality, I don't know. I mean, not really much of like a modern GTO. I mean, when it comes to Pontiac GTOs, for me personally, basically, I basically like the classic ones from the 60s, 70s, all that kind of stuff. But well, it is how it is. Okay, so that's just how I like it, pretty much. You know, the classic American muscle cars with our classic American V8s. Say thumbs up for all the American V8s. So, before I get started, make sure you guys all like the video, subscribe, comment down below what you guys think, hit the notification bell, and hit all so you're alerted when I make brand new uploads. Okay, so without any further ado, let's begin. So the Pontiac GTO. Here we go. So the GTO's a front motor, rear wheel drive, so front motor, rear wheel drive, two-door and four-seater automobile manufactured, both manufactured and marketed by the Pontiac division of GM, General Motors, over 4 generations from 1963 until 1974. So from like during the early 60s to the early mid 70s in the US, with a Gen 5 made by GM's Australian subsidiary Holden for the 04 through 06 model years. Okay, orders next. So let's do it. So manufacturer was both Pontiac from the years 63 to 74, and then Holden from 04 to 06. Production was from 63 obviously to 74, and then 03 to 06. Model years was from 64, so the manufacture and production 63 74, then 03 06. Model years is 64 to 74, and then 04 06. Body and chassis next. Class, there's 3 types. We got midsize from 63 to 73, compact 74, and another midsize from 0306. Its layout was obviously the classic layout of front motor rear wheel drive. Garage is next. The predecessor was the Pontiac Tempest, which I might do a video on that car. I don't know, but maybe not. I don't know, say a Pontiac Tempest. Okay, so the Pontiac GTO is a front motor rear wheel drive. So front motor rear drive, two-door, four-seater car manufactured and marketed by the Pontiac division of GM over 4 generations from 63 until 74 in the US with a Gen 5 made by Holden, GM's Australian subsidiary for the '04 through '06 model years. So for the '04 through '06 model years, the Gen 1 GTO is credited with credited with popularizing the muscle car market segment in the '60s. Some consider the GTO to have started the trend. Some consider the GTO to have started the trend with all four domestic automakers offering a variety of competing models. For the 64 for both the 64 and 65 say 64 and 65 model years, the GTO's an optional pack on the intermediate sized Pontiac Le Mans. The 64 GTO VIN number started with the 64 GTO VIN number started with 22, while the 64 GTO VIN number started with 22, while the 65 version began with 237. The GTO is designated as a separate Pontiac model from 66 through 70, 66 through 71, VIN number 242. It became an optional pack again for the 72 and 73 intermediate Le Mans. For 74 the GTO is an option. For 74 the GTO is an option trim pack on a compact sized Ventura. The compact sized Pontiac Ventura. I might talk about that car one day. So Pontiac Tempest and Pontiac Ventura. Wow, no, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so the GTO models revived for the 0406 model years as a captive import for Pontiac, a left-hand drive version of the Holden Monaro, which is an Australian's answer to the muscle car, itself a coupe variant of the Commodore. Next, origins. So, in early 1963, GM management banned divisions from involvement in auto racing. So from involvement in auto racing, this decision followed the 1957 voluntary ban on um, automobile racing that the AMA Automobile Manufacturers Association so Automobile Manufacturers Association Automobile Manufacturers Association instituted by the early 60s. Pontiac's both advertising and marketing approach was heavily based on performance. With GM's ban on factory sponsored racing, Pontiac's Pontiac's uh, Pontiac's managers emphasized Pontiac's managers emphasized street performance. In his autobiography, um, so in his autobiography, Glory Days, uh, in his autobiography, Glory Days, Jim Wagner's, I don't know how to properly say it, it's spelled Wangers. It's like saying Rangers, but taking out the R and putting W. Um, Pontiac chief marketing manager, who he was, who worked for the division's contract advertising and Public Relations Agency states that John DeLorean, John DeLorean, Bill Collins, and Russ Gee, RUSS, first name, last name is GEE, were responsible for the GTO's creation. It involved transforming the upcoming Gen 2 Pontiac Tempest, uh, which revert which reverted to a conventional front motor with a front transmission configuration into a sporty car with a larger 6.4 liter 389 volt 390 technically Pontiac V8 motor. From the full-size Pontiac Grand Prix from the full-size Pontiac Grand Prix um, hardtop coupe in place with from the full-size Pontiac Grand Prix hardtop coupe in place of the standard 5.3 liter 326 5.3 liter 320 5.3 liter 3 5.3 liter 326 V8 motor. By promoting the big motor option as a unique high-performance model, they could appeal to the youth market, which has also been recognized by FMC's Ford Motor Company's Lee Iacocca, who is preparing the Mustang variant of the Gen 2 Ford Falcon Compact. The GTO disregarded GM's policy limiting the A-body intermediate line to a maximum motor displacement of 5.4 liters. So it's a 5.4 liter 330 V8. It's the same configuration as a supercharged L5 4GT. The development team discovered a loophole in the policy that didn't restrict the offering. So the development team discovered the V8. The development team discovered a loophole in the policy that didn't restrict, so that de-restricted the offering of larger motors as an option. Elliot Pete Estes, Pontiac's general manager, approved the new model with Frank Bridge, the sales manager, limiting initial production to just 5,000 cars. Next is the FIA homologation. The name GTO was inspired by the early 60s Ferrari 250 GTO from 1962. So the name GTO was inspired by the 1962 the name GTO was inspired by the 1962 Ferrari 250 by the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO. So yeah, by the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO. The nicknames are back. So the nicknames an Italian abbreviation for Gran Turismo Omologato, Gran Tour homologated, designated being so Gran Tour homologated, designating being created, not created, sorry, designating being certified, so designating being certified by the FIA for racing in the Grand Tour or GT class as a production car with at least 100 units made. So for some racing like rallying, for example, at least a couple hundred of the same exact cars are supposed to be made in order for them to race in like rally events. So designating being certified by the FIA for racing in the designating being certified by the FIA for racing, designating being certified by the FIA, designating being certified by designating being certified by the FIA for racing in the Grand Tourer class as a production car with at least 100 units made. Unusually for such a Detroit marketing ploy. So unusually for such a Detroit marketing ploy, uh, an employee from Pontiac, so a Pontiac employee, had the car homologated by the FIA in 1964. So during like the nearly to the mid 60s was, so that it was indeed possible for the GTO to compete in European sports car racing. Next we got is the Gen 1, the very first GTO. So orders first, as always. So let's do it. So production was from 64 to 67. Assemblies are in these 5 states. So Fremont, California, Baltimore, Maryland, Pontiac, Michigan, Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri, and Framingham, Massachusetts. So pretty much one of those states, Michigan, was named after the Pontiac vehicle. Interesting. So Fremont, California, Baltimore, Maryland, Pontiac, Michigan, Kansas City, Missouri, and Framingham, Massachusetts. Body and chassis next. Body style, 3 types you can choose from a two-door is either a convertible, hardtop, or a coupe. Platforms in A body. It's related to the Oldsmobile 442, Chevy Malibu SS, and the Buick Skylark GS or Grand Sport. Powertrain is next. For the motor, we got both a 6.4 liter, 389, well 390 technically, and a 6.6 liter 400 Pontiac V8s. Transmissions, 4 types you can choose from. 2 of them are manuals, 2 of them are automatics. So we got both a 3-speed, 4-speed manual, so 3-speed, 4-speed manual, and a 2-speed, 3-speed automatic. Dimensions is next, not much on it. So wheelbase goes in at 2921, so 2921 millimeters, 115 inches for wheelbase. Length 5243 millimeters, 206.4 inches in length, and width 1890 approximately 1890 millimeters, 74.4 inches. Okay, starting off with the first one is 1964. So the first GTO began production September 3rd, 1963. So 10 years and 9 days before Paul Walker was born. May rest in peace. So yeah, the first GTO began production on the 3rd. So early September 1963, early September 1963, journey early 60s, so early 1960s, and was available as a option pack for the Tempest-based Le Mans model. Sorry. Available in coupe, hardtop, and convertible body styles. So coupe, hardtop, and convertible body styles. The $295 pack, equivalent to last year $2,990, almost 3,000. So equivalent to last year almost $3,000. Included a 6.4 liter 389, well 6.4 liter 390 V8. So 6.4 liter 390 V8 motor rated at 325 horsepower, which is not too bad really. 325 horsepower is a lot. At 4,800 RPM, with a couple of these upgrades, with a single Carter AFP 4-barrel carburetor system, carburetor system, and also with dual exhaust pipes, chromed valve covers, and air cleaner. What else? Seven blade clutch fan, floor, a 3-speed manual with a floor shifted 3-speed manual with a Hurst shifter, stiffer spring, so Hurst shifter, stiffer springs, larger diameter, front sway bar, wider wheels with 7.5 by 14 redline tires, hood scoops, and GTO badges. Optional equipment included a 4-speed manual, super a two-speed super a two-speed super turbine 300 um, automatic, a more powerful V8 with a tri-power carburation with three three two-barrel Rochester 2G carburetors rated at 350 horsepower. It's pretty good. 350 horsepower is a lot. So 25 more than the previous version. So a little bit more, almost 25 horsepower more than the 325 version. So rated at 350 horsepower. Even had so even had what else? It even had metallic drum brake linings, luminous slip LSD differential, heavy duty cooling, ride and handling pack, as well as a tachometer mounted in the far right dial on the dashboard. Some limited power features were available, as well as other accessories. With every available option, the GTO cost about $4,500. So $4,500, equivalent to last year at around $45,620. Over $45,500 technically in 2024 last year, and weighed about 3,500 pounds dead on and 1,600 kilos dead on. More contemporary road tests by the automotive press, such as Car Life, criticized the slow steering, particularly without power steering, which would have made it a lot easier, and inadequate drum brakes. Which for me they were a pain to work with. Literally, everybody agrees with that. Like back in college, before I got kicked out, I used to do drum brakes for my first year, and they were an absolute nightmare to fix. If you would have fixed drum brakes, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. It was just a pain to fix on. Some people say it's easy, but others, no. It depends on how much experience people would have with all this, and how much knowledge they would have with all that. Said inadequate drum brakes, which are identical to those on the standards, so the normal Tempest. So they were a pain to work with, I'll be honest with you. Anyways, moving on. So Frank Bridges' initial sales forecast of 5,000 units 5,000 units proved inaccurate. The GTO pack's total sales amounted to 32,450 units. Next up, 1965. Holy cow, there's a lot. So, the Tempest model lineup, including the GTO, was restyled for the 65 model year, adding 3.1 inches to the overall length while retaining the same wheelbase and interior dimensions. It had Pontiac's characteristic vertically stacked quad headlights. Overall weight was increased by about 100 pounds, 45 kilos, oh, close to 50 kilos almost. The area of the brake lighting increased by nearly 15%. Heavy duty shocks were standard, as well as stronger front anti-sway bar. The dashboard design was changed, and an optional rally gauge cluster, which is an $86 option, added a more uh, legible both tachometer and oil pressure gauge. An additional option was a breakerless transistor ignition system. The 6.4-liter 390 V8s received revised cylinder heads with record intake passages and high-rise intake manifolds, improving airflow to the motor. Rated power increased to 335 horsepower, which is pretty good, at 5,000 RPM for the base 4-barrel V8. The tri-power, meanwhile, V8 was now rated at 5,200 RPM at 360 horsepower. Pretty good, pretty good. So 5,200 RPM, 360 horsepower. The S-cammed tri-power V8 had slightly less peak torque rating than the base motor at 3600 RPM, 40 so 424 pound-feet, 575 newton meters of torque. So it's at 3600 RPM, as compared to at 3200 RPM, 431 pound-feet, 584 newton meters of torque. So it's at 3200 RPM. Gearbox and axle ratio choices remain the same. The 3-speed manual standard, while two 4-speed manuals, either wide or close ratio, and a 2-speed auto were optional as well. The restyled car had a new simulated hood scoop, a seldom seen dealer installed option consisted of a seldom seen dealer installed option consisted of a metal underhood pan and gaskets to open the scoop, making it a colder intake. The scoop making it a colder intake. The scoop was low enough that its effectiveness was questionable. It was unlikely to pick up anything but boundary layer air, but it allowed an enhanced motor sound. Another exterior change, was the black egg crate grill, as they call it. I don't know why, but say black egg crate grill. Car Life tested a 65 GTO with tri-power. So Car Life tested a 65 GTO with tri-power, and what they considered the most desirable options, such as like close ratio, 4-speed manual, power steering, metallic brakes, rally wheels, 4.11 limited slip LSC differential, and rally gauge cluster, with a total sticker price of $3,643.79. So technically over $3,500, with two testers and equipment on board. So with two testers and equipment on board, they recorded a 0 to 60 time of 5.8 seconds. So 5.8 seconds. The standing quarter mile in 14.5 seconds, with a draft speed of just 100 miles an hour dead on, and an observed top speed of 114 miles an hour. If it was 140, it'd be great, but 114. and not so much at the motor's red line of just 6,000 RPM. A four-barrel motor trend test car, a heavier convertible handicapped by the two-speed automatic. So two-speed automatic, it's automatic, and the lack of an LSD differential ran 0 to 60 in 7 seconds flat, and through the quarter mile in 16.1 seconds at 90 miles an hour. Well, 89 I just ran up technically to the closest one. Many criticisms of the GTO continued to center on its slow steering ratio of 17.5 to 1, four turns lock to lock, and subpar brakes. Car Car Life was satisfied with the metallic brakes on its GTO, but both Motor Trend and Road Test, however, found the four-wheel drum brakes with organic linings to be so found the four-wheel drum brakes with organic linings to be alarmingly inadequate in high-speed driving. Sales of the GTO, abetted by both a marketing and promotional campaign that included both songs and various merchandise, more than doubled to 75,342. It spawned many irritators both within other GM divisions and its competitors. Okay, next is 1966. So the GTO began a separate Pontiac model. Model number is 242 in 1966. Instead of being an optional pack, instead of being an option pack on the Tempest Le Mans, the entire GM, the entire GM A body intermediate line was restyled that year, gaining more uh, curvaceous styling with kicked up rear fender lines for a Coke bottle look. So the look of a Coca-Cola bottle. It's like a cola bottle technically, and a slightly tunneled backlight. The taillight featured a louvered cover only seen on a GTO. Overall length grew only fractionally to 206.4 inches. Um, Still on a 115-inch wheelbase, while width expanded to 74 point to while width expanded to 74.4 inches. The rear track increased by 1 inch. Overall weight remained about the same. The GTO was available as a pillared coupe, hardtop, without the B pillars, and a convertible. An automotive industry first um, was a plastic front grille that replaced the pot metal and aluminum versions used in earlier years. New Strato bucket seats were introduced. New Strato bucket seats were introduced with higher and thinner seat backs and contoured cushions for added comfort, and adjustable headrests were introduced as a new option. The instrument panels redesigned and more integrated than in previous. So the instrument panels redesigned and more integrated than in previous years, with the ignition switch moved from the far left of the dash to the right of the steering wheel. Four pod instruments continued, and the GTO's dash was highlighted by walnut veneer trim. Motor and carburetor choices remained the same as the previous year, except the tri-power option was discontinued unfortunately mid-model year. A new motor was offered to a new motor was offered that saw few takers. The XS option consisted of a factory ram air setup with a new 744 high lift cam, approximately 35 factory installed um, ram air packs are believed to have been built, though 300 Dealer-installed RAM packs are estimated to have been ordered. Sales increased to 96,946, the highest production figure for all GTO years. Although Pontiac had strenuously promoted, although Pontiac had strenuously promoted the GTO in advertising as the GTO Tiger, it became known in the youth market as the GOAT, which is true actually. It's known as the GOAT. Alright, last but certainly not the very least is 1967. So the GTO underwent a few styling changes in 67. So it underwent a few styling changes in 1967. The louvered covered the louvered color the louvered covered sorry tail lights were replaced with 8 taillights, 4 on each side, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool detailing. Rally 2 wheels were colored lug nuts. So with colored lug nuts were also available in 67. The emblems on the fenders rear part were moved to the chrome rocker panels, those GTO emblems. The grills changed from a purely split grill to one that shared some chrome. The 67 GTO the 67 GTOs available in 3 body styles. Hardtop with 65,176 produced. Hardtop convertible 9,517 produced. So 9,517 produced for a convertible, and a sports coupe or the SC version 7,029 produced. The GTO also saw several mechanical changes. So the GTO also saw several mechanical changes in. So the GTO also saw several mechanical changes in 67. The tri-power carburation system was replaced. So the tri-power carburetor was replaced with a single 4-barrel Rochester quadrajet carburetor. The 6.4 liter 390 V8 received a larger cylinder bore, 4.12 inches, for a total displacement of 6.6 liters. So that's a 400 V8, which was available in 3 models: economy, standard, and high output. The economy version used a the economy version used a the economy version used the economy version used a 2-barrel carburetor rather than the Rochester quadrajet, and was rated at 265 horsepower at 4,400 RPM, and at 3,400 RPM, nearly 400 pound-feet, 540 newton meters of torque. At 3,400 RPM, it's not too bad. The standard V8's rated at 335 horsepower at 5,000 RPM, and the highest RPM. Wait, hold on. And the highest torque of the 3 motors at 3,400 RPM at 441 pound-feet, nearly 600 newton meters of torque. At 3,400 RPM, that's pretty good. The high output V8 produced the most amount of power for that year at 5,100 RPM, 360 horsepower. Pretty good. At a maximum torque of 440 pound-feet, getting close to 600 newton meters of torque. It's like 61 kilos per milligram or per meter or something. I don't know. At 3,600 RPM. Emission controls were fitted in GTOs sold in California. The 67 model year cars required new the 67 model year cars required new safety equipment, a collapsible steering column with an energy steering wheel, a accompanied by a padded instrument panel. Also, along with that, even had non-protruding control knobs and four-way emergency flashers. Four-way emergency flashers became standard. Shoulder belt, seatbelt on the shoulder option was also available. Most classics would just have it around the waist. The seatbelts. It depends on what car it will have that. So yeah, shoulder belt options also available, and the brake master cylinder was now a and the brake master cylinder was now a dual reservoir unit with a backup hydraulic circuit. The two-speed autos available. The two-speed autos also replaced with a three-speed turbo hydra TH 400. So with a three-speed turbo hydra TH 400, which is equipped with a Hurst Performance dual gate shifter called a hers shifter, apparently, that permitted either automatic shifting in drive. So that permitted either automatic shifting in drive or manual selection through the gears. So manual selection through the gears. Front brake rotors were also an option in 1967. Our last one, and I'll edit it for now. The GTO sales for 67 totaled up to 81,722 units. Okay, so that'll be it for now. For my next video will be about the Gen 2 Pontiac GTO. From 1968 to 1972. Starting off with the first one is from 1968. I gotta go. See ya.